Hi everyone, Bear from Bear Reads Books. Welcome back to my channel. Time for a weekly update, and recently my weekly updates have just been wherever and whenever I happen to sit down, and yet again it's been really busy. I think the last time I did a video was when I showed you my fridge with all the rankings of the books on there. But it's been a very busy week, and they are all busy weeks, and I think my reading has still been reasonably productive. But I am getting to the tail end of BookTube Prize season for this particular round. For non-fiction, I have 2 books to go. I've finished 4. The 2 books that I've still got in play, that I'm partially through both of them. One is Solitary by Albert Woodfox, and the other is Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. So getting my way through both of those, and I left those to the end. I was kind of putting them off. They fall into that box that I mentioned right at the beginning of the judging period of being very American issues, and so as such I left them to the end. And they've been they're not bad books. I just can't give any rating for them right now, but I am moving slowly with them. There's a lot to consider as I read both of these books. So, but this week I have managed to finish some. So I finished my 4th book of BookTube Prize, being There's Something We Need to Talk About. I don't think that's the name of it. I think it's... maybe you should talk to someone. I finished that one about counselling and therapy in the United States. Maybe you should talk to someone by Laurie Gottlieb. I finished that one. I've picked up on audiobook another Australian one. I really need to try and ramp up my Australian reading. I missed out on Aussie April altogether. I think I probably read something in April by an Australian author, but there was nothing of a concerted effort there. So when I finished Below Deck by Sophie Hardcastle, and I did a review of that, I so thoroughly enjoyed that I thought I really should try and make my Australian reading really recent and really on the ball, because I'm an Aussie booktuber and I need to make sure I do that. So I've picked up a memoir this time called 14, and since the last time I've spoken to you, I've started, finished, read, absorbed that, and it's good. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I'm not sure for international audiences whether it would transfer across to other audiences in English. It's very, very Australian, and if you think I have an Australian accent, this guy lives in regional Australia like me, not far from here, just north of here, telling the story of his childhood and his adolescence growing up in regional Australia as a gay person. And he went to an all-boys Catholic school, just like me, which was full of horrible bullying and toxic masculinity and just terribly uneducated teachers with regards to these kinds of social issues and topics. So, and because it was a Catholic school, all of these things are just forbidden. So, touching yourself, forbidden. Homosexuality, forbidden. And you were told that very clearly as a student, right from primary school right through to when you graduate, that this is just not something, you will go to hell for doing that. And I remember being told that. My school's seemingly a little bit more forgiving than Shannon Malloy's school in North Queensland or in Central Queensland, but that's what it's trying to tell the story. And Shannon Malloy, the author, who also narrates the book, is very clear that his time at this school, and I know which school he's referring to, even though he doesn't say it by name, it's a very famous all-boys Catholic school because it churns out famous football players, rugby league players that play for the big teams in Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne, all over the place. It churns out famous football players almost every single year. So I know exactly which school Shannon Malloy is referring to. And in the time period that he went there, I was aware of the footballers that were being churned out of there, even though I'm not a huge sports fan myself. You just can't get away from it. But Shannon Malloy's life while going to this school is completely different. It was bullying and abuse and beatings almost on a daily basis. Even in class, when other classmates would call him out in an offensive way for being a homosexual, the teachers would not do anything about it. They would not admonish the other children. They would not try and change the language of how they were referring to all those terrible terms that people refer to homosexuals as. The teachers did nothing to try and change the language or to flip the conversation or even to protect Shannon in what he was going through. And in that respect, it's a very confronting, very horrible memoir. He's obviously gone through some terrible stuff. And he's now, as an adult, a journalist and marketing and PR person, so he writes well. What I meant was when I said it wouldn't translate well for any other English-speaking audience other than Australian. We have a term in Australia called a bogan, and it's a lower to middle class person that talks in a very particular way. It's kind of the redneck of the American terminology, and the words and the language and the parts of speech that go with that and the behaviours that go with that are very particular to Australian. And this part of Australia that Shannon Malloy comes from is a coastal town, but it's a horrible, terrible. If you've ever been to a coastal town, think, oh, you live by the beach, it'd be great. Yeah, not this place. I've been there, it's a shithole. And even the author says it's a shithole. You know, you think living by the beach in Australia is idyllic. Nah, this place is terrible. Anyway, he lives there, and it is just, the way he describes it, it's full of bogans. And he comes across almost like one himself, but that would horrify Shannon Malloy if he knew that. So that's what I mean when I said I don't think it'd translate very well. But I thoroughly enjoyed it because it is a very heartbreaking picture of attitudes in regional Australia at this time, the turn of the century, 2000, 2001, towards anything different, towards any difference, whether that be race or sexuality, gender, anything at all. I think it's a great picture of that. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was called 14. It's a memoir by Shannon Malloy. Check it out. Other than that, this week I haven't finished anything. To replace 14, now that I've finished it, I've picked up something called Phosphorescence, another Aussie one. Phosphorescence, which I think is another memoir, biography, a little bit, a little bit of its time, I suppose. It was Phosphorescence by Julia Baird, Julia Baird, Phosphorescence, and the subtitle is On Awe, Wonder and Things That Sustain You When the World Goes Dark. So this book was originally released in the middle of last year to zero fanfare and not a huge amount of success. But now that we're in the middle of this coronavirus nonsense and the world is locked away, this has really piqued people's interests, and they've reprinted it and re-released it, and they're almost talking about it like it's a brand new book, even though it's been out for 9 months. But it's On Awe, Wonder and Things That Sustain You When the World Goes Dark. So it was actually written 6 months before, 9 months, released 9 months before all this happened. So very pointed and very timely that it's out there in the world. And I don't have it with me at the moment. The cover is sensational, just blues and silvers. And I'll read you a little description because I'm not sure it's going to be for me, but we're going to check it out anyway. It says the national bestseller is a beautiful, intimate and inspiring investigation into how we can find and nurture within ourselves that essential quality of internal happiness, the light within, which will sustain us even through the darkest times. Yes, so I'm not sure what it's going to be. It's listed as a biography. I'm not sure what that means around that description, but that's what I've got on my plate. So really, BookTube prize, I've got to finish that off, and then I'm just sticking with Aussie audiobooks to complement that. But I haven't picked up a physical book for a little while because all of my BookTube prize books are on audio or on ebook. So I was feeling a bit out of sorts with physical books, so I went out and bought a couple. The bookshops are open. And again, I bought a couple of Aussie books. The wonders of recording outside. This is what I get for wanting to do videos in the garden all the time. Mammoth by Chris Flynn has only just been released, so you may not have even seen this anywhere. It is an Australian book, and I have to read you the description on the back. It sounds amazing. It says, narrated by a 13,000-year-old extinct mammoth, this is the mostly true story of how a collection of prehistoric creatures came to be on sale at a natural history auction in New York in 2007. By tracing how and when these fossils were unearthed, Mammoth leads us on a funny and fascinating journey from the Pleistocene epoch to 19th century America and beyond, revealing how ideas about science and religion have shaped our world. With our planet on the brink of calamitous climate change, Mammoth scrutinises humanity's role in the destruction of the natural world while also offering a message of hope. And it's billed as fiction. Hang on, is it fiction or non-fiction? It's billed as fiction. So I really am not sure, and even the note in the bookshop that says you should buy this is great, from the bookseller and from the workers there, said, seriously strange, buy this and tell us what you think. Okay. And the second one I bought is how much of these hills is gold. I think C. Pam Zhang is also an Aussie writer. A debut for both of these, Chris Flynn and for C. Pam Zhang. Don't know much about this one. So a couple of books, yay! So I have physical books, and I'm really going to try hard to read really recent Aussie fiction, because I have another plan brewing in my head unit here to do another little project with regards Aussie fiction. If you are passionate about Aussie fiction and you'd like to be involved in something, let me know. So I'm going to try and buy, read, review, do stuff with Aussie fiction a lot more than I have been in the past. So what I do have is my little fridge magnet with 14 by Shannon Malloy right there, and Shannon, is going on the fridge in the right way. So join me up at the fridge and we'll see where Shannon fits. If I start looking down the list here, we've got a few. Below Deck, which I reviewed last week by Sophie Hardcastle, was excellent. I don't think it's as good as Sophie Hardcastle. And then we get into BookTube prize territory with Such a Fun Age. Transcription by Kate Atkinson and the Pioneers. I think I'm about right. We're getting into the middle of the road territory here, so I think 14 would best sit in this area here, maybe straight under the Pioneers by David McCulloch. I think would be a good place for it. So in between David McCulloch, the Pioneers, and A Portable Reader, the poetry collection by Roger Robinson, I think that's probably a good spot for 14 by Shannon Malloy. So that's it for this week. A couple of new books from the bookstore, a couple of books finished, a couple still in play for the BookTube prize. It's been a super busy week, and a new one added to the fridge. Enjoy your day, everyone, wherever you may be, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.